This is Austin Reville on our From the Vault series featuring unique and historical firearms presented by 2FC Tactical. We're located in New Prague, Minnesota. We definitely hope you come check us out in person. I understand if you can't, but like, comment, subscribe, help this channel grow. We've exploded and we want to continue to explode and beat that algorithm. We do have a Patreon account, 2IBST, if you'd like to go support us there as well. Now, with that being said, we have a really cool pistol for you today. One that serves in multiple arenas, and we can't wait to show it to you. So what we have for you today is the CZ Model 27 pistol. This is chambered in the 7.65mm Browning or 32 ACP cartridge, keeping it in line with many of the other pistols that we have from Germany of World War II. This is a German-occupied produced pistol. It's going to be a little faint and hard to see, but there is the German Waffen stamps on the top of the slide with the serial number, as well as your FNH factory code there. It's a very cool pistol. Now, this pistol would see life on both sides of the war. Or I should say not both sides of the war. It would see life post-war. So, Czechoslovakia at the time, what we now know as Czechia or the Czech Republic, of course, was invaded by the Nazis. They took over the Sudetenland first and then moved in throughout the rest of the country. They would basically force them to produce guns for them all the way up until it was liberated, unfortunately, by the Russians, and would be behind the Iron Curtain for the duration of the Cold War. This would be done through the CZ or VZ, that's what it was known at the time, the VZ factory, or as well as the DOT factory for K98Ks like we have right here. But for this particular pistol, it was designed with the commercial and police in mind. It was issued throughout the German military. There was about 650-ish thousand of these pistols made. But to put it in perspective, 452+ thousand of them were made under Nazi occupation. So the bulk of these were made while the Germans occupied the country. This does feature your typical European style mag release, which is a little hard to effectuate underneath the pistol grip to eject the magazine. It does feature the CZ emblem on the grips there. And it does have this protruding barrel a little bit from the slide, which kind of gives it a very unique profile. These pistols were actually really well liked. They do function quite well. It is a hammered fire pistol. It's it's interesting in the fact it was made under Nazi occupation, of course, but post-war, that's really where this pistol gets a whole new job. Now, the Military Arms Corporation, or MAC account, you should definitely check out. It has a little article on this. They have one of these that is completely sanitized. There's no markings on it whatsoever, because these pistols were ended up as conflict pistols throughout the Cold War. Something very similar that we saw with the S-27, which was the Treaty of Versailles violation rifle, if you will. And the U.S. military does this. The Russians did this during the Cold War, still do it to this day, as do the Chinese. So this is nothing new. But during the Cold War, a lot of these pistols were sanitized completely. All the numbering, lettering, and everything was removed from them. And then they were sold off to various arms groups, military groups around the world to fight the proxy wars that the East and the West would find themselves in. And they have pictures of one that has been completely sanitized and ground off all the markings. So I do find that rather interesting in terms of how this pistol found life after the war. It is a single stack pistol. It does feature a somewhat hard magazine release, so definitely not the best design of the era. And when it came to the Soviet occupation, CZ would go on to make, obviously, their Makarov variants, the 82, 83. They would have the CZ-75, so they would greatly increase and upgrade their handgun production, and to be honest with you, they outpaced the Russians, in my humble opinion, in terms of their handgun designs. Now, unfortunately, like we talked about with the Viz-35, with the Warsaw Pact, whatever Moscow said went. So a lot of the Czech designs ended up not being implemented further by the the Soviet military post-war, just because it wasn't made in Russia. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't well ahead of the time. They're one of the oldest gun makers in the world, and they still make excellent designs to this day. I would personally say this is maybe not one of their best efforts. With that being said, it does have a very unique profile and served a very interesting life. I do find this pistol really interesting, the fact that it's not real finished. When you look at the top, you would think that that's checkering. That's not. That's just machine marks that were not smoothed out. I haven't dated this pistol yet. I'll have to take a deeper dive to see if I can find out exactly when this one was made. But it is a 298,000 serial number, so we are getting towards the end. It's kind of that last maybe fourth quarter stretch, third quarter stretch of the war. Obviously, things aren't going well by that time. The Russians are coming from the east. The Americans and British and the Allies are coming from the west, and Germany is getting squeezed slowly and surely. And of course, the war would end in 1945. So I suspect, since this is toward the end of the war pistol, the earlier wars would have a much more smooth finish to them. As far as the post-war productions, like I said, about 650,000 of these were made. So about another 200,000 were made after the war. They were sold all over the world, including Turkey. The Ethiopia dictator ended up getting 2 automatic versions of them as a gift. I had to do a little bit more research as to the reasons why on that particular one, but I did find that interesting. They made automatic versions of these to give to him. And again, these ended up being used, broadly speaking, as guards, camp guards, police. There were commercially available pistols. They weren't necessarily proliferated throughout the military, though certainly military members did have them. Not everyone in World War II was issued a sidearm. That's a much more modern concept, where you'd have a sidearm as well as your main weapon. So many of the soldiers would on their own go purchase their own pistol to have that sidearm. This would certainly be one of the ones that were available that they could have acquired. This does come with a holster. Very nice example of the holster. Typical black leather design. And, very smooth operation on this whole pistol. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Like I said again, and thanks for tuning in. We look forward to bringing you more in the future. Thank you.